In this land, you are alone with the weight of the sack on your back and the unquenchable thirst within you. In those endless deserts, brutally scorched by the sun and where the horizon blurs, you seek a purpose beyond the mere instinct for survival. In this desolation ruled by dust and wind, where the whispers of ancient civilizations are heard, every step drags you towards that moment of no return. Today, with you, in this wild nature where hope appears and disappears like a mirage, we will confront that ancient despair that pushes the limits of your existence. The first thing you feel is the heat. It is a physical presence, a heavy blanket of warmth that presses down from a vast, impossibly blue sky. The air shimmers before your eyes, distorting the horizon into a wavering line. You stand on cracked, ochre-colored earth, a mosaic of fractures stretching to meet an ocean of pale gold sand. There is no sound but the whisper of a dry wind. A lonely sigh that stirs the fine dust at your feet. The air smells of baked stone, of ancient, sun-drenched earth, and something else, a faint metallic tang, like old coins left in the sun. You raise a hand to shield your eyes, and the world comes into sharper focus. Before you, the desert rolls on and on, a landscape of sublime and terrifying emptiness. The sun is a white, blinding coin, so bright it seems to bleach all color from the world. In the far distance, a ridge of dark rock juts from the sand like the spine of a sleeping beast. There is no sign of life, no birds, no insects, only the immense, silent presence of the wilderness. A profound sense of isolation washes over you, but it is not frightening. Instead, it is calming, as if the sheer scale of this place has shrunk all your modern worries to insignificance. Your feet feel the fine grit of the sand, and you look down at the ground. Scattered nearby are shards of pottery, their faded red and black patterns still visible. Who left them here? A merchant caravan? A fleeing family? The fragments are silent witnesses to a life that passed through this very spot thousands of years ago. You feel a sudden, sharp thirst, a dryness in the back of your throat that the dry air only intensifies. Survival is the only thought that matters here, the most ancient and simple of instincts. Your gaze sweeps the horizon again, searching for a landmark, for any break in the monotony. And then you see it. Tucked against the base of the distant rock ridge, a smudge of darker color. It could be a shadow, or it could be the entrance to a wadi, a dry riverbed that might offer shelter from the relentless sun. A purpose takes root within you. You must walk. You must reach that shade. With a deep breath of the hot, ancient air, you take your first step. Each footfall is a soft crunch on the hard-packed earth, a quiet rhythm in the vast silence of the Bronze Age. The journey has begun, and you are utterly, peacefully alone in the past. The initial sense of purpose is a cool drink that is quickly swallowed by the desert. With each step, the sun asserts its dominance. It's no longer just a light in the sky. It's a physical weight pressing on your head and shoulders, a relentless furnace that bakes the air you breathe. Your shadow, once long and stretched behind you, shrinks until it's a mere puddle of darkness huddled at your feet. The rock ridge, your beacon of hope, seems locked in place, a cruel optical illusion that refuses to grow larger. An hour, maybe two, melts away, measured not by a clock, but by the growing ache in your legs and the rasping burn in your throat. The silence is no longer peaceful. It has become an active presence, amplifying the sound of your own ragged breathing and the thudding of your heart against your ribs. You scan the ground as you walk, not out of archaeological curiosity anymore, but with the desperate eyes of a creature seeking sustenance. You pass the bleached white skeleton of some kind of goat, its bones picked clean and scattered by scavengers long since departed. The empty eye sockets seem to watch you, a stark reminder of the price of failure in this land. You touch your lips. They are cracked and dry, and the metallic tang you smelled earlier is now in your own mouth, the taste of blood from a split lip. Your mind begins to drift. You think of water, not just a sip, but a flood. You imagine rain on your face, the cool weight of a river, the simple, miraculous feel of a full canteen in your hands. The images are so vivid they are painful, a form of self-torture. You shake your head, trying to banish the mirage in your mind, but the heat haze ahead creates its own illusions. The air above the sand shimmers and writhes, creating phantom lakes that vanish as you approach. Is the dark smudge at the base of the ridge just another trick of the light? Doubt, a venomous serpent, coils in your gut. Your pace falters. You stumble on a loose stone, catching yourself just before you fall. The impact of your hands against the hot, gritty earth sends a jolt through you, clearing your head for a moment. You push yourself up, grit stinging your palms. You look up, and for the first time, you can see it. The ridge is closer. You can make out individual cracks and fissures in the rock face. The dark smudge is real. It's an opening, a shadowed cleft in the stone, promising relief from the white-hot glare. The sight injects a surge of adrenaline into your exhausted limbs. It isn't far now. With a guttural cry that is half pain and half defiance, you push onward, your stumble-footed walk becoming a desperate, lurching shamble. The promise of shade is the only thought in your head. The only world that exists. You are almost there. The last few dozen paces are a waking nightmare. Every step is an agony, your muscles screaming with the effort. The sand gives way to broken rock, and you stumble, your ankles twisting. But the shadow of the ridge falls over you, and the drop in temperature is so sudden, so profound, it's like diving into water. The relief is a physical blow, and you let out a sob of gratitude. You reach the opening, your hands pressing flat against the blessedly cool stone of the cleft. The strength leaves you all at once, and you slump against the rock, half falling into the darkness within. The world shifts from a blinding white canvas to utter black. For a moment, you are blind, your sun-seared eyes unable to process the change. The only sensations are the cool air on your skin, the rough texture of the rock beneath your cheek, and the sound of your own ragged breath echoing in the sudden, profound silence. The air is thick and still, tasting of ancient dust and the cold mineral scent of stone. Slowly, painfully, your vision returns. Shapes emerge from the gloom, the jagged walls of a narrow fissure, a ceiling of dark rock just above your head, and a sandy floor stretching deeper into the blackness. You push yourself away from the entrance, crawling deeper into the life-saving shade. Your hand brushes against the wall, and you feel something that is not natural rock. It's smoother, with faint ridges. You squint, your eyes adjusting further. There, on the wall, are paintings. Faded figures in red ochre and yellow clay. You see the unmistakable shapes of men with bows, their stick-figure arms drawn back to fire at a herd of long-horned ibex. Below them is a symbol you recognize, a spiraling sun, an icon of a powerful god from the coastal cities you left so long ago. A jolt runs through you, not of fear, but of connection. Others were here. They found this same refuge. They survived. Your gaze drops to the floor. In the center of the small chamber is a ring of blackened stones, the clear remains of a fire pit. The ashes are cold and ancient.
You are not the first person to huddle in this space, seeking shelter from the tyrant sun. Hope, a feeling you thought had been baked out of you, stirs faintly in your chest. You lean your head back against the stone wall, closing your eyes, allowing the exhaustion to wash over you. In the quiet, you hear something, a sound so small you almost miss it, a rhythmic plink, plink against stone. Your eyes snap open. The sound is coming from the deepest part of the shadow. Forgetting your exhaustion, you crawl towards it, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs. Your hand, reaching forward in the dark, lands in something damp. Not just damp, wet. You look up, tracing the sound to its source. From a hairline crack in the ceiling above, a single, perfect drop of water is gathering. It swells, catches a sliver of light from the entrance, and falls, landing in a small, smooth hollow in the rock below. The hollow is nearly full. It is not a mirage. It is real. With a hand that trembles uncontrollably, you dip your fingers into the tiny pool. The water is shockingly cold. You bring your wet fingers to your mouth, touching them to your cracked lips. The taste is clean, earthy, and miraculous. It is the taste of life itself. You don't gulp it down, you savor it, letting the precious moisture soak into your parched mouth, feeling the relief spread through you like a rising tide. For the first time since the sun rose this morning, you believe you are not going to die. The relief is so profound, it feels like a physical blow, leaving you weak-kneed and trembling. You don't leave the small pool. You stay crouched over it like a dragon hoarding treasure, dipping your fingers in again and again, pressing the life-giving coolness to your temples, your neck, the dust-caked skin of your arms. The water is a slow metronome, each drop counting out the seconds of your extended survival. Thirst is a cunning monster, and you know you cannot defeat it in one go. You must be patient. Your gaze falls on the clay shard you still carry, the one with the faded markings of a fish, a tool for digging, a memory of home, and now a vessel. You crawl back to the entrance, retrieve it from your ragged bundle, and carefully place it in the hollowed rock. The next drop of water falls with a slightly different tone, a plink that resonates with purpose. Each drop is no longer just a sound, it's a deposit into the bank of your future. With the slow work of collection underway, a new kind of awareness settles over you. The adrenaline of desperation recedes, replaced by a deep, bone-weary exhaustion, yet your mind is sharp. You turn your attention back to the cave itself, your sanctuary. You run your hand over the cool, rough wall, your fingers tracing the faded ochre lines of the hunters. They weren't gods or kings whose monuments you saw crumbling in the cities. They were people. People who knew this rock, this spring, this secret haven. Their story, a silent promise etched in stone, whispers to you across the ages. It is possible to endure. You wonder about them. Were they fleeing the same chaos? The sea peoples with their strange bronze swords? The famines that turned neighbor against neighbor? The palaces burning on the horizon? The spiral sun they painted is the emblem of a powerful sky god, one whose priests grew fat on tributes in the cities. Here, in this humble shelter, it feels different. Not a symbol of power, but a plea for mercy. A mark of identity in a world falling apart. Driven by a new curiosity, you explore the small chamber more thoroughly. You run your hands along the crevices and cracks, feeling for any other sign of your predecessors. In a narrow fissure near the fire pit, your fingers brush against something hard and sharp. You work it free carefully. It's a piece of dark flint, the size of your thumb, expertly napped on one side to form a scraping edge. It's ancient, worn smooth in places by a hand that vanished into dust millennia ago, but it feels solid, real, and profoundly useful in yours. A tool, a gift from the ghosts. Clutching the flint, you sit with your back against the wall, watching your shards slowly fill. The light at the cave's mouth begins to change, softening from a blinding white glare to a warm golden hue that sets the painted ibex glowing. The tyrant sun is relinquishing its hold on the sky. Soon, the killing heat will pass, and the cool of the evening will offer a chance to travel. The cave has given you water, a tool, and a story. The desert outside waits to see what you will do with them. The golden light fades to bruised purple at the mouth of the cave. The air, once a physical blow, is now a cool caress on your sun-scorched skin. You drink one last time from the spring, the water a shock of life in your parched throat. You carefully fill your pottery shard to the brim, the water sloshing precariously as you rise. You know much of it will be lost to the sand and the heat of your own hand, but it is more than you had. With the flint tool tucked securely into the folds of your tunic and the shard held in both hands like a holy relic, you give the ochre hunters one final, grateful glance. Their silent vigil is over. Your journey must resume. The world outside the cave is transformed. The desert is no longer a shimmering white furnace, but a landscape of deep shadows and soft, muddied colors. The rocks that baked you hours ago now bleed their stored heat into the cooling air. You stand on the precipice, inhaling the scent of dust and distant, dry scrub. Above, the first stars prick the velvet darkness, and soon the sky is a vast tapestry of silver points, so bright and close they seem to hum with a silent cosmic music. You have no charts, no priestly knowledge of the heavens, but you see the great river of stars stretching across the sky, and a familiar cluster of 7 that shepherds used to mark the seasons. They are constant. In a world of burning cities and broken kings, their cold, eternal light is a comfort. You choose a direction not with logic, but with instinct. You follow a low, winding ridge that offers firmer footing than the deep sand, your eyes constantly scanning the starlit ground ahead. The silence is profound, broken only by the rhythmic crunch of your footsteps and the whisper of the night breeze. It is a lonely sound, the only proof you are not a ghost in this empty land. You clutch the flint scraper, its sharp edge a small, solid comfort against your palm. You are not a hunter, but you are no longer just prey. Hours pass. The moon, a slender crescent, begins its ascent, casting long, skeletal shadows that play tricks on your weary eyes. A skittering sound in the rocks nearby makes you freeze, your heart hammering against your ribs. You flatten yourself against a boulder, peering into the gloom. A small, pale fox with enormous ears regards you with intelligent curiosity for a moment before melting back into the darkness. You let out a breath you didn't realize you were holding. You are not alone, but not everything out here is a threat. It is then, as your hope begins to fray and the familiar ache of exhaustion settles deep into your bones, that you see it. Far, far ahead, so low on the horizon it is almost indistinguishable from a star, a single point of light flickers. It is not the cold, silver light of the heavens. It is the warm, unsteady, orange glow of a fire, a human fire. Hope and fear seize you in a single, icy grip. Salvation or destruction could be waiting by that flame. Your path has led you here, to this choice, beneath the silent, watchful web of the stars. The fire is a lodestone, pulling you forward with a force that overrides your exhaustion. Every rational thought screams caution, whispering tales of desert raiders and cutthroats who prey on the weak. But your thirst is a more immediate tyrant. It is a physical pain, a scraping hollowness from your tongue to your belly. To remain in the dark is to die. To approach the light is to gamble with the only thing you have left. You take the gamble. The journey is agonizingly slow. You move from shadow to shadow, using the sparse skeletal rock formations as cover. The fire seems to grow no closer, a taunting illusion that retreats with every painful step you take. Your feet, raw and blistered, protest with every crunch on the gravelly sand. You keep your body low, a hunched silhouette against the star-dusted horizon, your hand never leaving the comforting weight of the flint scraper in your grip. It is a pathetic weapon, but it is yours. After what feels like an eternity, the air begins to change. You smell it first, the sharp, resinous scent of burning scrubwood, a fragrance so profoundly human it makes your chest ache. Then, carried on the thin night breeze, you hear it, the murmur of voices. The language is guttural and strange, not the tongue of your city's markets or the conqueror's harsh commands. This is something else, the tongue of the sand wanderers, the people who have always lived in these liminal spaces. You crawl the last 100 paces on your belly, the sharp grit of the desert floor pressing into your skin. You reach the crest of a low sandy ridge that overlooks the source of the light. Below, in a shallow basin sheltered from the wind, is the camp. It is smaller than you imagined. The fire is a modest one, built of twigs and dried dung, casting a flickering, intimate glow. Around it sit 3 figures. A man with a thick, dark beard, his face a mask of weariness. A woman, her head covered, rocking a bundle of cloth in her arms that must be a child. Another figure, perhaps a youth or a small elder, is huddled under a threadbare blanket, their back to you. They are not warriors. Their clothes are patched and worn, their visible possessions a single clay pot and a goatskin water bag hanging from a stick. They look like you, debris from a broken world. Your throat constricts at the sight of the water skin. It is full, its sides dark and beaded with moisture. It is life. They speak in low tones, their strange words rising and falling with a weary cadence. The man pokes the fire with a stick, sending a shower of orange sparks into the darkness. The woman hums a soft, mournful tune to the bundle in her arms. For a moment, watching them, your profound loneliness washes over you with crushing force. They are a family, a tiny island of connection in this vast emptiness. But desperation makes monsters of everyone. If you reveal yourself, will they see a fellow sufferer to be pitied, or a threat to their meager survival to be eliminated? You shift your weight, trying to find a more comfortable position to wait, to decide. A loose rock beneath your hand dislodges. It doesn't make a loud noise, but in the profound silence of the desert, the small clatter and the skittering of pebbles down the sandy slope sound like a collapsing wall. Instantly, the voices below stop. The humming ceases. The man is on his feet, grabbing a crude, fire-hardened spear that lay beside him. All 3 figures turn, their faces now sharp with alarm, and stare directly into the darkness where you lie frozen. Your heart, a trapped bird hammering against your ribs. You have been discovered. Time freezes. The desert wind seems to hold its breath. The man's spear is not a finely wrought weapon from a palace smithy, but a simple, sharpened stick, its tip blackened and hardened in a fire. It would be no less deadly for its crudeness. Your mind screams at you to run, to scramble back into the anonymous safety of the dunes, but your limbs are leaden. Where would you go? Back to thirst? Back to a slower, more solitary death? Your eyes, against your will, flick again to the glistening water skin. It is an anchor, a promise, a reason to risk everything. Flight is folly. Fighting is suicide. That leaves only one path, narrow and treacherous. Slowly, deliberately, you unclench your fists. You push yourself up from the sandy ground, not with a sudden lunge, but with the weary slowness of an old man. Every muscle protests. You raise your hands,
Palms open and facing the firelight to show they hold no weapon. The gesture is ancient, universal, a plea. You stand fully, a silhouette against the star-dusted sky. The man tenses, the spear tip rising a fraction. The woman pulls the bundled child so tightly against her chest you fear she might smother it. The third figure, the one huddled in the blanket, shuffles slightly, turning a withered face toward you, eyes wide with alarm in a web of wrinkles. An elder. 3 generations, fragile and fierce, judging you from their tiny island of light. Your throat is a desert of its own, but you force a sound out, a raspy word in your own tongue. Water. It is a prayer, a confession of your desperate state. The word means nothing to them, but the tone, the raw, cracked sound of it, carries your meaning. You take a single, shuffling step forward, then stop, holding your ground, proving you will come no closer without permission. You lower one hand and point a trembling finger to your own cracked lips, then make a drinking motion. You look from the man's hard face to the precious skin of water and back again. You lay your weakness bare, making yourself vulnerable in a way that is either your salvation or your final mistake. The silence stretches, thin and taut. The bearded man's eyes are black stones, weighing you, measuring your threat. He sees your tattered clothes, your gaunt frame, the exhaustion etched into your face. He sees not a raider, but a reflection of his own plight. The woman whispers something sharp and urgent to him. He shakes his head almost imperceptibly, never taking his eyes off you. The fire crackles, spitting a spark that dies in the sand. It is the only sound in the world. After an eternity that lasts only a dozen heartbeats, he gives a short, sharp jerk of his head toward the fire. He does not lower the spear. The gesture is not an invitation to friendship. It is a command. Come, be seen, be judged. Hope, terrifying and painful, lances through you. You take another hesitant step, and then another, moving out of the shadows and into the flickering circle of their world, the fire-hardened point of the spear tracking your every move. You move with the slow, deliberate care of a wild animal approaching a trap it knows it cannot afford to ignore. The firelight paints your skin in dancing shades of orange and red, chasing away the cool blue of the desert night. It feels like a brand. Every detail of the family is thrown into sharp relief. The frayed edges of the woman's shawl, the deep-set weariness in the elder's eyes, the calloused knuckles on the man's hand as he grips the spear. His knuckles are white. The spear tip does not waver. It remains aimed at your chest, a single, sharp point of death in this small circle of life. You stop a respectful distance from the fire, across from them, and slowly lower yourself to the sand. The movement sends a wave of dizziness through you, and you press a hand to the ground to steady yourself. You keep your eyes downcast, a gesture of submission, of utter lack of threat. You hear a low murmur of their strange, guttural tongue. The woman speaks, then the elder. The man remains silent. You risk a glance up. He is watching you, his expression unreadable. He then looks at the waterskin, a dark, precious shape beside him. With his free hand, he unplugs a wooden stopper. The sound is impossibly loud. He reaches for a rough clay cup, handleless and shallow, and pours. He doesn't pour much, just enough to cover the bottom.
It is a test. He sets the cup on the sand between you and him, a careful, an offering, and a boundary. Then he nudges it forward with the butt of his spear. You crawl forward, your limbs trembling with a mixture of weakness and desperate anticipation. Your fingers close around the cup. It is cool against your hot skin. You lift it to your lips, your hand shaking so much you fear you will spill the life within. The first drop of water touches your tongue, and it's an agony of relief. It's not just liquid. It's the memory of rain, the promise of survival. You force yourself to sip slowly, to honor the gift, to show you are a man and not a beast. You drain the small portion and set the empty cup back down, your gaze fixed on the ground. You do not ask for more. You wait. The silence returns. The man grunts, a sound that is not unkind. He points the spear toward the horizon, in the direction from which you came, and makes a shape with his free hand. A flat roof? A wall? He is asking about your city.
The place of straight lines and stone that is so alien to this world of dunes. You can only shake your head, a slow, heavy motion. You raise a hand and mimic fire, then falling. Then you sweep your arm wide, a gesture of everything gone. Your story is too vast for gestures, but the desolation in your eyes is a language they understand. The woman clutches her child closer. The elder nods, a slow, grim acceptance, as if they have heard this story before from the wind itself. The man finally lowers the point of his spear until it rests on the sand. He picks up a piece of flat, hard-looking bread from a cloth and tosses it to you. It lands softly in the sand at your feet. For now, you are welcome to their fire. For now, you will live. The bread is not bread as you know it. It is a disk of hardened flour and water, baked in ash, and it scrapes your throat as you tear off a piece with your teeth. It is gritty with sand, but it is solid. It is substance. It is the first solid food to pass your lips in days, and you chew it with the reverence of a prayer, your eyes closed. When you open them, the world has shifted. The immediate frantic terror has receded, leaving behind a profound weariness and the cold, clear reality of your situation. You sit by their fire, an island of flickering light in an ocean of darkness, a ghost among the living. They speak to one another in a language of clicks and guttural sounds that feels as ancient as the stones around you. It is not the tongue of the sea merchants or the lilting speech of the palace scribes. It is a language stripped to its essentials, as sparse and pragmatic as their lives. You watch them, trying to build a world from these fragments. The man, the one with the spear, has a weathered face and hands that are never still, always mending a strap or sharpening a flint. The woman moves with a quiet efficiency, tending the child and the fire, her presence a silent anchor. It is the elder who watches you most intently. His eyes are milky with age, but they seem to see more than the others. They see the shape of the city of ghosts that walks behind you. After a time, the elder picks up a charred stick from the edge of the fire. In the smooth sand between you, he draws a circle. Inside it, he draws 3 small figures and 1 large one. He points to the figures, then to his family. He taps the sand inside the circle.
home, camp, us. The meaning is clear. Then he draws a long, wavering line away from the circle, ending it with a drawing of a horned animal. Journey, hunt. He looks at you, his brow furrowed, and points the stick at your chest. You understand. You take the stick. Your hand, once skilled with a stylus on clay, feels clumsy. You draw a square, then another, and another, until you have a grid of lines, a city. You draw a high wall around it. You try to draw a ship with a high mast, but the concept is too foreign. Their faces are blank. They know only the ship of the desert, the slow, swaying camel tethered nearby. Frustration builds in your throat. How can you explain a world of 10,000 souls, of bronze gates and irrigated fields, to people who count their wealth in goats and water skins? You abandon the attempt. With a sweep of your hand, you smudge the city into a meaningless blur. You jab the stick into the fire, pulling out a glowing coal. You press it to the sand where your city was, letting it smoke and hiss. You whisper the only word they might know, a word carried on the hot winds from the north, a name of fear. Hati. The man with the spear grunts. The elder nods slowly. He erases your smudge with his foot. He looks at you, a long, assessing gaze. He points to your chest again and speaks a single word, a question. Your name. You say it. The syllables sound strange and hollow in the vast silence. A relic from another life. The child tries to mimic it and laughs, the sound impossibly sharp and alien. The man shakes his head. The name is soft, full of sounds that do not belong in this land of rock and wind. The elder taps your ash-smeared tunic, then points to the blurred drawing you made in the sand. He says a new name for you. Epher, dust, ash. It is not a question. It is a statement. It is who you are now. For now, you are Epher. You have a name written in dust, a life measured from one sip of water to the next. You have nothing else. The day breaks not with a song, but with a shiver. The fire is a pile of gray ash, and the cold of the desert night clings to your bones. Before the sun has even crested the jagged rocks to the east, the small camp is in motion. There are no wasted words, only the soft shuffle of feet on sand, the clink of a clay pot, the low bleating of goats. The elder, the man who named you, approaches. He doesn't speak. He hands you a water skin, noticeably lighter than the others, and a pointed, fire-hardened stick. He gestures for you to follow. You walk away from the meager shade of the rocky outcrop that serves as their camp. The sun begins its assault, turning the sand from cool gray to blinding white. The elder walks with a slow, deliberate pace, his eyes scanning the ground. He stops, pointing with the toe of his sandal at a desiccated, thorny vine. He mimes the act of digging, then pushes the stick into your hands and walks on, leaving you alone under the vast, empty sky. You are to prove your worth, or your lack of it. Your first efforts are a failure. The stick is an awkward tool. Your hands, accustomed to the smooth weight of a stylus, are soft. You dig where he pointed, but find only rocks and dry, crumbling earth. The sun climbs higher, a malevolent eye in a brassy heaven. Sweat stings your eyes and pastes your tunic to your skin. Thirst, a familiar ache, becomes a hammering torment. Despair is a physical weight. You are a scholar, a man of letters and laws. Here, you are less than a child. You are a mouth to feed, a drain on their precious, dwindling water. You almost give up. You almost lie down in the sand and wait for the end that should have claimed you days ago. But then you see it. A few paces away, the same kind of thorny vine, but its leaves are a fraction less gray, a hint of life clinging to them. You crawl to it, digging with the stick, then with your bare hands, heedless of the sharp stones. Your fingers, already raw, scrape against something firm and swollen beneath the surface. You pull, and a pale, gnarled root comes free of the sand. It is ugly and small, but it feels as precious as a bar of tin from the Western Isles. You carry it back to the camp like a treasure. The man with the spear, Kedar, watches you approach and grunts, his expression one of faint contempt for your meager finding. But the elder takes the root without a word. He slices off a piece with a sharp flint knife and offers it to you. You chew. The flesh is fibrous and tastes of earth and bitterness, but a trickle of precious moisture coats your tongue and soothes your throat. It is the most exquisite thing you have ever tasted. The elder nods once, a gesture devoid of warmth, but full of meaning. You are still Epher, the dustman, but today you found water in the dust. The single taste of the root does not quench your thirst, but it alters its nature. It is no longer a path to madness and death, but a bearable ache, a reminder of the price of each sunrise. Your small success has not earned you a name, not truly, but it has bought you another day. You are still the strange creature from a fallen world, the man with soft hands and a tongue full of useless words. But now you have a function. You are the digger of roots. Your days fall into a brutal, simple rhythm. Before the sun has fully crested the jagged horizon, the elder hands you the digging stick and a water skin, its contents measured with a miser's eye. You walk away from the meager camp, a solitary figure against the endless expanse. Your task is to find enough of the bitter, life-giving roots to supplement the group's stores. You are expected to return by the time the shadows stretch long and cool from the rocks. You learn to read the sand. You learn the language of the withered vines, which ones are truly dead and which feign death, hiding their treasure below. You learn to spot the subtle depressions in the earth that hint at moisture trapped deep beneath the surface. Your skin darkens and cracks. Calluses build on your palms, a rough armor against the thorns and sharp stones. The scholar Epher, who debated the trade laws of Alashia, is buried deeper each day beneath the grit and sweat of Epher the dustman. Your relationship with the others remains one of distance. Kedar still watches you with suspicion, though his contempt is now tempered by the fact that he too chews the roots you provide. The women ignore you, and the children eye you as they might a strange lizard. Only the elder interacts with you, and only through the silent transactions of the stick and the water skin. There are no words of encouragement, no lessons taught. There is only the desert, your teacher, and survival, your only grade. One afternoon, seeking shelter from the worst of the sun's fury in the shadow of a rock overhang, you see them. Scratched into the dark, wind-scoured stone are carvings. They are not the crude markings of nomads. The lines are too certain, too graceful. They are weathered and ancient, but unmistakable. You run your raw fingers over the grooves. You see a great river. A celestial alignment of stars you recognize from the temple scrolls in your city, and a procession of figures carrying jars towards a symbol you know, the sign of the ever-flowing spring, a promise of life eternal. It's a map, a story from a forgotten time. It speaks your language, the language of symbols and recorded knowledge. You forget your thirst, the heat, the aching muscles. For the first time in weeks, you are not a beast scrabbling for sustenance. You are a scholar. You frantically try to memorize the patterns, the orientation of the stars, the curve of the incised river. When you return to camp that evening, your leather pouch heavier than usual with roots, you don't wait. You pull the elder by his sleeve, ignoring Kedar's warning growl, and lead him back towards the rocks as the twilight bleeds purple and orange across the sky. You point, your hand trembling, at the carvings.
The elder squints in the fading light. He steps closer.
His own gnarled hand reaching out to trace the very same lines you touched. He does not look at you. He looks at the stone, and a low sound, something between a sigh and a prayer, escapes his lips. He knows this place. The elder's hand falls from the stone and grips your shoulder. It is a surprisingly strong grip, the bones and sinews of his hand like a knot of old wood. He turns you to face him, and in the deep twilight, you see his eyes properly for the first time. They are not the vacant, cloudy eyes of a man at his end, but dark, sharp points that seem to hold the memory of 1,000 star-filled nights. He says nothing, but the pressure on your shoulder is a language in itself. It speaks of recognition, of a shared secret pulled from the dust of ages. The silent pact between you is sealed. When you return to the meager camp, the dynamic has irrevocably shifted. Kadar steps forward, his hand on the hilt of his bronze knife.
But the elder simply raises a hand. The gesture is not one of command, but of weary finality, and it stops the younger man cold. The women, who have never so much as acknowledged your existence, now follow you with their gaze, their faces unreadable masks of curiosity and fear. The elder does not try to explain with words you do not share. Instead, he kneels. With a finger, he begins to draw in the sand beside the fire. He mimics the symbols from the rock face, the winding river, the specific clutch of stars, and finally, the sign of the ever-flowing spring. He points to the sand drawing, then raises his arm to the real stars now glittering in the ink-black sky, tracing the constellation from your shared memory. He finishes by pointing out into the darkness, into a direction they have never taken. A void on their mental map of the world. A tense murmur ripples through the small clan. This is a profound break from tradition. Their lives are dictated by the rhythm of the seasons and the well-trod paths between known wells. To follow a ghost map, a story scratched on a rock by long dead hands, is madness. You see Kadar arguing in low, guttural tones, gesturing angrily towards the barren expanse the elder indicated. He points at you, his meaning clear. This is the folly of an outsider, a city dweller who knows nothing of the true desert. But the elder's authority, born of seasons and wisdom, holds fast. He simply shakes his head, his gaze unwavering. By morning, the decision is made. The camp is broken down with a grim, hurried efficiency. This time, however, you are not shunted to the rear of the procession to stumble in the dust. The elder beckons you to walk beside him at the head of the line. One of the women approaches and, without meeting your eye, hands you a water skin that feels heavier than any you have been allowed to carry. It is a fragile, conditional acceptance. You are no longer a burden. You are an oracle, and your prophecy had better come true. The journey is harder than anything you have yet endured. The land changes, the familiar reddish sand giving way to cracked, gray earth and fields of sharp, black volcanic rock that threaten to shred your worn sandals. The sun seems to possess a new, more personal malice. The silence of the clan is different now. It is not the silence of routine, but of simmering doubt. You feel Kadar's eyes on your back with every step, a physical weight of blame waiting to descend. Each night, you force your exhausted eyes open to stare at the sky, charting your course by the cold, distant light of the stars from the carving, praying you have remembered them correctly. The promise of the stone feels a long way off, and the thirst of the present is very, very real. Days bleed into one another, each a searing hammer blow of heat and light. The sun is no longer just a source of light, but a physical presence, beating down on your shoulders, pressing on your skull. The black volcanic rock underfoot radiates the day's fury back at you, so that you feel as if you are being cooked from above and below. Your world shrinks to the shuffling feet in front of you, the rasp of your own breathing, and the ever-present, agonizing weight of the water skin sloshing against your hip. A constant reminder of the trust you carry and the price of your failure. The clan's doubt has curdled into a quiet, simmering despair. The children no longer chase lizards or whisper games. They walk with the same grim endurance as their parents. One afternoon, an old woman stumbles, her knees buckling without a sound. Her son helps her up, his face a mask of stoicism.
But you see the trimmer in his hands. There is no water to spare for weakness. Kedar's hostility is now a cold, open thing. He rations water to his own family with pointed glances in your direction, as if to say, "This is the water your phantom promises are costing us." He speaks to the elder every evening, his voice a low, insistent buzz you cannot quite make out, but the intent is clear. On the 5th day of the new path, your own hope begins to fray. The landscape is a monotonous hell of rock and heat haze. The stars at night, once a comfort and a guide, now seem to mock you, their patterns impossibly vast and indifferent. Did you misremember the sequence? Was one star out of place? The thought is a cold spike of terror in your gut. These people are following you to their deaths, and the ghost map feels like a fever dream, a story you told yourself to survive. That evening, you watch the elder portion out the last of the goat's milk cheese. When he is done, there is nothing left. His eyes meet yours across the small, silent fire, and for the first time you see the raw edge of his own fear. It is then that Kedar speaks, his voice cracking the silence like a whip. "We are walking into the furnace of the gods. We chase the ravings of an outlander while our children thirst." He takes a step towards you. "There is no water here. There is only death." His words hang in the air, undeniable. Desperation claws at your throat. You shut your eyes, trying to conjure the image of the petroglyph, the lines etched into the cool, dark stone. You trace them in your mind. The sun, the stars, the winding path, and something else, a detail you almost overlooked, a vertical line cutting through a series of wavy horizontal ones. Not a river, a passage, a break. Your eyes snap open. You ignore Kedar and scan the horizon, your gaze frantic. The heat shimmers, distorting everything into a watery illusion. But you push past it, looking for a flaw. An interruption in the endless, rolling expanse of stone. And you see it, so far away it's barely a smudge against the sky. A ridge, like any other. But there's a shadow on its face. A tall, thin shadow where no shadow should be at this hour. A deep, vertical cut. A crack in the world. You cannot speak. You stumble forward and grab the elder's arm, your fingers digging into his thin flesh. You point, your entire being focused on that distant line. The clan turns to look, a collective, indrawn breath. The elder shields his eyes, his gaze following yours for a long, silent minute. Kedar lets out a dismissive snort, but then the elder whispers, his voice filled with a forgotten awe. "The Needle's Eye. My grandfather told stories of it, a path through the mountain that the sun cannot reach." He turns to you, his weathered face transformed. The fear is gone, replaced by a blazing, terrible hope. "You have not been guided by ghosts," he says. "You have been guided by the ancestors." The march resumes, but the silence is different now. It is the silence of pilgrimage. Hope is a terrible burden. It is heavier than a water skin filled with sand, more exhausting than the sun's relentless glare. Yet you carry it, The clan carries it. The march is no longer a death rattle, but a determined pilgrimage. Each step is purposeful, aimed at the distant slash of shadow that promises relief. Kadar walks near the rear, his face a mask of stone, his earlier defiance buried but not forgotten. He watches you, his eyes narrowed, waiting for this new faith to crumble like sun-baked clay. The hours bleed into one another. The heat presses down, stealing the moisture from your lips, your eyes, your very thoughts. The fissure on the horizon grows with agonizing slowness. What was a smudge becomes a line, then a gash, and finally, a wound cleaved into the heart of the mountain. Its scale is immense, far greater than you imagined. The entrance is a dark, silent mouth, promising to swallow the sun itself. As you draw closer, the air begins to change. A faint, almost imperceptible coolness brushes against your scorched skin, a phantom touch from another world. It is the mountain's exhalation, a breath of stone and shadow held for centuries. You are the first to reach it. You stand at the threshold between two worlds, the blinding furnace of the open desert and the profound, waiting dark. The temperature drops 20 degrees in the space of a single step. You walk forward, and the world goes quiet. The roar of the heat in your ears vanishes, replaced by the soft scuff of your sandals on stone and the echo of your own breathing. One by one, the others follow, their faces slack with shock and relief as the cool air envelops them. Children who were whimpering fall silent, their wide eyes gazing up at the towering walls of rock that soar towards a sliver of impossible blue sky. This is the Needle's Eye. It is no simple passage, but a winding, twisting canyon, so narrow in places that you could stretch out your arms and touch both walls. The rock is smooth, sculpted by wind and water from a time before memory. You press on, the path leading you deeper into the mountain's core. The air grows cooler, damper. You run a hand along the wall, and your fingers come away moist. A collective gasp ripples through your people. It is then that you hear it, a sound so alien in this dry world that it takes a moment to place. A soft, rhythmic plink, plink, plink. You round a final bend and see it. In a grotto carved from the stone, one wall is stained a deep, living black. It weeps. Droplets of pure, clear water ooze from the rock, gathering and falling into a shallow basin worn smooth by millennia of this gentle act. It is not a spring, not a river, but a gift. No one rushes forward. They stop, staring with a reverence reserved for the divine. The elder steps to the pool, his hands trembling. He cups the water and brings it to his lips, his eyes closing as he drinks. He offers the next handful to you. The water is colder than any you have ever tasted, a shock of life that spreads through your exhausted body. You drink, and it is the taste of survival. Soon, the entire clan is drinking, their movements slow and deliberate, as if taking part in a sacred rite. Even Kadar meals, his head bowed, and drinks from the basin of the ancestors. For the first time in an eternity, there is enough. The hours that follow are a blur of blissful non-activity. Time loses its harsh, sun-driven rhythm and softens into the gentle cadence of dripping water. You watch as your people, sated and safe, shed the brittle shells they had formed against the desert. Two children who had been listless and silent now chase each other's shadows in the cool air, their soft laughter echoing off the stone walls. Women sit together, mending worn tunics, their conversation a low, comforting murmur. The elder meticulously cleans the wounds of the weakest with dampened cloth, his movements full of a gentle purpose that was absent when he thought his skills were only delaying the inevitable. You direct the filling of every waterskin, and the task is performed not with the frantic desperation of before, but with the careful forethought of a people planning for a future. The gurgle of water filling the dried leather is the sound of hope being stored away. As dusk paints the sliver of sky above a deep violet, a profound sense of peace settles over the grotto. This is the first true rest you have had since the world burned. Kedar finds you where you stand watch at the canyon's entrance. He doesn't speak, merely stands beside you, his gaze fixed on the fading light. The animosity between you feels like a memory from another lifetime. "This place is a blessing," he says, his voice low, "but it is also a trap. We cannot live on water alone." You nod, having thought the same. "The canyon continues," you say. "It goes deeper into the mountain. I must see where it leads." "Not alone," he replies. "It is not a challenge, but a statement of fact." Leaving the others in the relative safety of the grotto, you and Kedar venture deeper into the passage. The path narrows again, twisting in the growing dark. You light a torch, its flame casting dancing shadows on the smooth rock. Soon, the canyon opens into a larger, domed cavern. The air is still and heavy. Your torchlight catches something on the far wall. It is not natural. You step closer, holding the flame high. The wall is a tapestry of carvings etched into the stone by 100 generations of hands. They are faint, worn by time, but their story is clear. You see figures, stick-like but unmistakable, journeying through a stylized desert. You see them entering the Needle's Eye, just as you did. You see them gathered around the Weeping Wall. But the story doesn't end there. The carvings depict the figures following the canyon's path out the other side of the mountain. The etched line of their journey continues, finally ending at a symbol you recognize with a jolt. A great winding river surrounded by horned ibex and trees heavy with fruit. It is a map. A promise. "They left us a way," Kedar breathes, his hand tracing the image of the river. The stone does not just hold water. It holds memory. It holds a path forward. You return to your people, the torch held high, your steps certain. You gather them and show them, on a patch of damp earth, the map you have committed to memory. A new energy surges through the clan. They are no longer just survivors. They are pilgrims, following a trail left by the ancestors, a secret whispered from the living heart of the stone. The new day does not dawn for you. Instead, you plunge deeper into the mountain's night, leaving the weeping grotto behind. The hope you ignited in your clan is a fragile flame, and you shield it with every step. You lead them, the map a searing image behind your eyes, Kedar a solid presence at your side. The passage is the gullet of some great stone beast, winding and constricting. The air grows thin and tastes of ancient dust. Children stumble, their whimpers echoing unnervingly in the tight space. The initial surge of optimism begins to fray, replaced by the grim reality of the journey. After hours that feel like days, the path ends abruptly at a chasm. It is not wide, but the drop is lost to the torchlight's reach. A collective gasp ripples through your people. Doubt, cold and sharp, cuts through the air. But as you hold the torch over the edge, you see them. Handholds and footholds, deliberately carved into the rock face. The ancestors did not just pass this way, they prepared it. Kedar goes first, testing each hold. Then you guide the others, your voice a low, steady anchor against the vertigo-inducing darkness below. You pass the youngest children across, their small bodies trembling, their trust in you absolute and terrifying. One by one, your clan makes it to the other side, their hands raw, their faces pale with strain, but their spirit unbroken. The shared trial forges a new bond, silencing the whispers of despair. Deeper still you travel, following the cool draft of air that is your only compass. You find other signs, a discarded flint scraper, a charcoal smear on the ceiling where a long-dead fire once burned. You are not just following a map, you are walking in their footsteps. The air begins to change. It sheds its subterranean stillness, carrying a new scent, not of wet rock, but of open sky and dry earth. A faint, gray light begins to dilute the oppressive blackness ahead. Your pace quickens, a silent urgency spreading through the group. The tunnel widens, the ceiling rises, and you stumble out from the mountain's core, blinking against a light that feels impossibly bright after the endless dark. You stand on a high, wind-swept precipice. The desert you knew is gone, hidden behind the mountain range at your back. Before you stretches a vast, rugged landscape of rolling hills and deep, shadowed valleys. Painted in shades ochre and pale green, it is not the paradise from the carving, not yet, but it is a world transformed. And there, far in the distance, a silver thread woven through the hazy landscape is the unmistakable glint of a great river. It is no longer a myth on a stone wall, it is a promise on the horizon. For a long moment, no one moves. You simply stand there, a tribe of ghosts returned to the light, letting the unfiltered sun warm faces that have known only torchlight and shadow for days. The wind whips your hair, carrying the scent of unfamiliar herbs and dry dust. Children who had been silent and fearful in the dark now point with wide eyes at the sheer scale of the world before you. Ilara shades her eyes with her hand, her gaze fixed on the distant river, a silent prayer of thanks moving on her lips. The sight is a balm, but it is also a measure of the journey still to come. The river is not a day's walk away, or even two. It is a destination that must be earned, one footstep at a time. The descent from the precipice is your first trial in this new land. There are no handholds carved by the ancestors here. You must read the rock, finding a path down a series of crumbling ledges and steep, scree-filled slopes. It is slow, painstaking work. Kedar and a few other hunters go first, securing ropes of braided leather where they can, calling out warnings about loose stones. You organize the clan into smaller groups, ensuring the elderly and the very young are always flanked by strong arms. More than once, a foot slips, sending a cascade of pebbles skittering into the valley below and drawing a collective, sharp intake of breath. One of the elders, a woman named Shara, misjudges a step and twists her ankle. Her sharp cry is quickly stifled, but her face is etched with pain. You bind the joint tightly with strips of hide, but you know she will slow your pace. It is a stark reminder of your vulnerability. This land owes you nothing. By the time you reach the rolling hills at the base of the mountain, the sun is slanting low in the sky, casting long, distorted shadows that make the landscape seem alien and alive. Exhaustion is a heavy cloak on everyone's shoulders. You must find water and shelter for the night. You scan the terrain, your eyes seeking the telltale signs, a dip in the land, a patch of greener vegetation. You lead them towards a cluster of granite boulders that could offer some protection from the wind, and perhaps from anything else that might stalk the twilight hours. While the others collapse in the lee of the rocks, you and Kedar press on, searching for a water source. The thirst is a rasp in your throat. After a tense search, you find it. Not a spring, but a shallow pool of rainwater collected in a hollow of rock. Clear and blessedly cool. You drink deeply before calling the others. The relief that washes over your people is palpable. They drink, refill the water skins, and a quiet sense of accomplishment settles over the small camp. This is the first gift of the new land, a sign that survival is possible. As the first stars prick the deep indigo sky, you sit by a small, carefully shielded fire. The flames paint dancing shadows on the granite boulders around you. The clan is quiet, huddled together, their faces turned towards the darkness where the great river lies hidden by the night. The hope is still there, a warm ember in their chests, but it is now tempered by the hard reality of the journey. You feel their eyes on you, their trust a physical weight. You followed the ancestors' path and brought them through the mountain. Now you must lead them through this vast, unknown wilderness. The map of the ancients has ended. From here on, every step is into uncharted territory. The fire has dwindled to a pulsing heart of embers, its warmth a fading memory against the profound chill of the desert night. You take the first watch with Kadar, the two of you sitting with your backs against the cold granite, spears resting across your knees. The silence is immense, broken only by the soft breathing of your sleeping clan and the whisper of a wind that feels impossibly ancient. Far out in the darkness, a sharp, unfamiliar cry echoes, a sound that raises the hair on your arms. It is not the call of a wolf or a mountain cat from the lands you knew. The beasts of this land have different voices, Kadar murmurs, his eyes scanning the starlit horizon. You nod, the weight of the unknown pressing down. The stars above are a brilliant, chaotic scatter, their patterns strange and alien. You feel untethered, a ship on a starless sea. You trade no more words, but a silent understanding passes between you. Tomorrow, you will follow the line of the foothills. To venture into the Apen sand would be madness. The dawn comes not with gentle warmth, but with a sharp, clear light that drains the color from the world before painting it in hues of ochre and violet. You leave Kedar to rouse the others and climb to the top of the highest boulder, your joints aching from the cold. Before you, the world opens up. It is a terrifying and magnificent vista of undulating rock and sand stretching to a horizon that seems a lifetime away. Your heart sinks, but then you see it. A faint, dark green line, miles to the southeast, a serpent's spine snaking through the barrens. It could be a dry wadi, but it might hold trees, shelter, and water. It is a direction, a chance. You descend and gather your people. Their faces are etched with fatigue, their eyes holding a mixture of fear and desperate trust in you. Ilara's ankle is swollen, and she leans heavily on her son for support. You point towards the hazy line on the horizon, your voice steady despite the tremor in your gut. There, you say, we walk there. It is as you are making final preparations, securing the water skins, that a small voice calls out. It is Leah's young son, Niran, his hand pressed against a section of rock face shadowed from the morning sun. Look, he whispers, his eyes wide. You move to his side and see what has captured him. Carved into the dark stone are figures weathered by countless seasons. Fading images of hunters with bows drawn, chasing long-horned ibex. Below them, a deep, winding line is etched, with smaller lines flowing into it, a crude but unmistakable map of a river system. And at the start of the line, a spiral, the symbol of a journey, of life. It's a message left by people like you, long ago, a story of survival carved in stone. A palpable wave of relief and awe washes through the clan as they gather to look. You are not the first. The ancestors, or someone like them, walked this path. The map may have ended, but the land itself holds the echoes of those who came before. You touch the cool, rough line of the carved river, a silent promise to its makers.
Turning back to your clan, you see the fear in their eyes has been replaced by a new resolve. The journey is no less dangerous, but you are no longer entirely alone. You are following a path whispered on the wind and etched in stone. The stone is cool under your palm, a conduit to the past, but the sun is a hot weight on your back, a relentless reminder of the present. The awe of the discovery must now be forged into action. You trace the winding line on the rock one last time, then lift your eyes to the distant green smudge on the horizon. The curve is the same. The ancient artist and you, separated by untold generations, are seeing the same land, following the same hope. You turn to the clan. "The ancestors have shown us the way," you announce, your voice ringing with a conviction you force into being. "We follow their path." The descent from the rocky outcrop is treacherous. Loose scree shifts underfoot, and Alara's pained gasps are a constant, sharp counterpoint to the murmurs of encouragement. You fashion a rough crutch for her from a sturdy, sun-bleached branch found wedged in a crevice, and two of the stronger youths take turns supporting her other side. The open desert floor greets you not with sand, but with a hard pan of cracked, sun-baked earth and sharp gravel that threatens to shred your worn leather sandals. The world becomes a shimmering, oppressive dome of blue and brass. The journey is a crucible of heat and silence. You institute the water rule immediately. A single, small sip when the sun is at its highest, and another when it begins its descent. No more. To drink freely is to die quickly. You watch as Niran, the boy who found the carving, offers his sip to his mother, Leah, who gently pushes it back to him with a tired smile. In these small acts, you see the clan's will to live. Hours crawl by. Mirages dance on the horizon, promising water and shade that dissolve into heat haze as you approach. The green line seems no closer, a cruel trick of the eye. Doubt, a venomous whisper, tries to coil in your gut. Did you misinterpret the carving? Is this a fool's errand? Then you see it. Ahead, a trio of granite boulders stands starkly against the flat terrain, weathered into the shapes of sleeping giants. Your memory flashes back to the rock carving. 3 rough circles were etched right before a sharp bend in the riverline. It's a landmark, a sign. You point it out, and a ripple of renewed energy passes through your small group. You are on the path. Near the boulders, another small gift, a patch of tough, spiny succulents, which old Tamir recognizes. He shows the others how to carefully break them open to get at the pulpy, slightly bitter moisture within. It is not water, but it is life, a small reprieve from the tyranny of thirst. You press on, the sleeping giants now behind you, a milestone past. As dusk finally bleeds across the sky in hues of bruised purple and fiery orange, you find shelter. It is nothing more than a shallow overhang at the base of a low mesa, barely enough to shield you from the wind, but after the exposure of the day, it feels like a fortress. The green line is still a distant promise, but it is visibly, tangibly closer. You sit with your back against the rock, watching the stars ignite in the deepening darkness. Your people are huddled together, sharing the last of the day's meager rations. Their faces are etched with grime and exhaustion, but the hollow despair you saw in their eyes that morning is gone. In its place is a hard, weary resilience. You have survived the first day on the serpent's path. The desert night is a different beast from the day.
The sun's tyranny is replaced by the piercing cold that seeps from the stone and steals the warmth from your bones. You huddle under a thin wool blanket, the fire dwindling to a pile of glowing embers that offer more comfort to the eye than to the body. Tamir has taken the first watch, his silhouette a stoic, unmoving sentinel against a backdrop of impossibly bright stars. The silence is profound.
This is when the fear finds its purchase, in the quiet dark. The responsibility for these lives presses down on you, heavier than any pack. You are following the memory of a carving, chasing a line of green on the horizon. It felt so certain in the light of day, so clear. Now it feels like a madman's dream. When your watch comes, you pace the small confines of the shelter, restlessness warring with fatigue. As the first hint of dawn paints the eastern sky in shades of gray and rose, its pale light catches something on the rock wall above where Niran and his mother are sleeping. You move closer, tracing the faint patterns with your fingers. They are handprints, dozens of them, overlapping, stained onto the sandstone with red ochre. The hands of men, women, and children.
All pressed against this same stone, a silent testament. Others have rested here. Others have walked this path. The discovery sends a shiver through you that has nothing to do with the cold. It is a message of hope and a haunting question in one. They survived this far, but did they reach the green line? The second day is harder. The brief respite of the succulents is a fading memory, and the true deep thirst has returned with the rising sun. The landscape shifts from packed sand to a brutal expanse of shattered black rock that glitters with malevolent sharpness. Each step is a careful, painful process. The stones are hot to the touch and slice at the worn leather of your sandals. Leah cries out, stumbling. A nasty gash on the sole of her foot bleeds sluggishly into the dark grit. You tear a strip from your own tunic to bind it, but you know she will slow you down. Every delay is a risk. By midday, the green line seems to mock you.
No closer than it was at dawn. Desperation begins to fray the edges of your small group's resolve. It is Tamir who stops, pointing not ahead, but to the side. He indicates a shallow, almost imperceptible depression in the volcanic field, a winding fissure where the rock seems to dip. Sometimes, he rasps, his voice dry as dust, the earth breaks, and where it breaks, water may hide deep below. It is a detour, a gamble. The direct path is punishing, but known. This new path is a guess, a prayer, whispered to the unforgiving landscape. They all look to you, the leader, the map reader. Your gut tightens. You look at Leah's pained face, at Niran's chapped lips, and you nod to the old man. You will take the risk. The fissure leads you into a narrow, winding canyon that quickly swallows the sun, offering blessed shade. The air grows cooler. The sound of your footsteps echoes off the high stone walls. Then you smell it, a faint, damp, mineral scent. Hope surges.
Around one final bend, you find it. A circular well, cut deep into the canyon floor by hands long since turned to dust. The water is dark and still, 20 feet below. For a frantic moment, there is no way to reach it. But then you see the worn notches carved into the rock face, a ladder for the desperate. Carefully you descend, your water skim clutched in your teeth. The water is cold and tastes of stone and salt, slightly bitter, but it is the most wonderful thing you have ever tasted. You send the skin up again and again until everyone has drunk their fill, their faces streaked with grime and relief. As you rest by the well's edge, Niren points to the canyon wall. Carved into the stone are figures of people, their arms raised, dancing around a great bull with crescent horns. This is more than a well. It is a shrine. You have not just found water. You have found a sanctuary, a sacred stop on an ancient road. You are treading in the footsteps of ghosts.
And for the first time, you feel they might be guiding you home.